Welcome to this explainer. Imagine, if you will, an entire microscopic universe of gears, jewels, and springs, just continuously beating day and night for over 50 years. Today, we're setting the stage for a highly cinematic, truly microscopic deep dive into a 1970s mechanical masterpiece. We are literally transforming our workbench into a surgeon's table to uncover exactly what it takes to resurrect a luxury timepiece from the inside out.
Okay, let's dive into this. When you're dealing with a vintage Rolex caliber 1570 movement, absolute reverence and meticulous care are, frankly, the only acceptable standards. The watchmaker's ethos here is crystal clear. You dress your screwdrivers so they perfectly match the screws, you prevent even the absolute slightest scratch on the plates, and you do everything strictly by the book. It's not just a repair, it's the preservation of horological history.
Diagnosis. The patient. Let's formally introduce our subject for today. Resting right here under the glaring, interrogating lights of the timegrapher before its teardown is a beautiful vintage Rolex Oyster Perpetual Date, reference 1501. Before we even open it up, let's just examine its exterior pedigree. It features that classic stamped steel bracelet, typical of the era, which is a completely different vibe from the milled bracelets we see today. Now, the watch is protected by an oyster case, meaning it was engineered with a screw-down crown and internal gaskets to be completely waterproof. But, time takes its toll. The Cyclops crystal over the date is worn and cracked, the internal rubber gaskets have just completely dried up and shattered, and hidden deep within the threads of the case is a rather stubborn buildup of what watchmakers affectionately call wrist cheese.
A real telltale sign placing this specific piece right around 1972 is the inclusion of a hacking function. Originally developed for military synchronization so soldiers could set their watches to the exact same second, this early innovation means that when you pull the crown out, a tiny spring pushes against the balance wheel, stopping the hands entirely. It's this incredibly precise, almost tactical feature packed right into a luxury dress watch. So we put it on the timegrapher and, well, it gives us the unvarnished truth. The watch is running fast, gaining about 39 seconds a day. Its amplitude, which is the angle at which the balance wheel swings, is a really sluggish 230 degrees, far below the healthy 260 degrees we'd want to see. And the beat error tells us the tick and tock are off-center. Now, looking at the screen, the lines are still relatively clean, which is a massive testament to the legendary durability of Rolex movements. But there's just no denying the reality here. This watch is struggling, and it demands a full microscopic intervention.
Deconstruction. The teardown. Let's move on and see how this builds. Because to truly heal the patient, we have to carefully peel back the layers of that oyster case. The moment the case back comes off, wow, the visual impact is just stunning. We carefully remove the pristine silver sunburst dial, which remarkably doesn't have a single mark on it. Underneath, the movement itself is practically a canvas of high-end finishing. Just take a second to appreciate the perlagage, those beautiful, decorative, overlapping milled circles on the base plate. That's sitting right alongside wonderfully finished blued screws in a mainspring barrel treated with this mesmerizing spiral sunburst finish. As we dig deeper into the automatic winding works, we encounter an unmistakable Rolex visual quirk, the magenta reversing wheels. Coated in Teflon, these distinctively colored wheels act like a highly sophisticated ratcheting system. They dictate the bidirectional winding of the rotor, meaning no matter which way the wearer's wrist happens to move, the watch is efficiently winding up that mainspring. Removing the balance wheel brings us to the absolute highest stakes of the entire teardown. Governed by an anachron hairspring, this wildly fragile gold-colored anti-magnetic coil, this component is the literal beating heart of the watch. If you bend or ruin the spring, replacing it is incredibly expensive and requires some serious master-level skills. Because the stakes are so high here, our watchmaker is using wooden-tipped tweezers and black anti-static finger cuts just to ensure the acidic oils from human skin never etch into that pristine steel.
Next up, we navigate the calendar works, which honestly houses a bit of a mini mystery. The wheel that turns the date disc uses a tricky reverse-threaded screw, and lurking right beneath the tiny bridge is a donut jewel held under intense tension by a remarkably jumpy yoke spring. Literally one wrong move with the tweezers, and that microscopic spring will absolutely launch itself across the room, which, let me tell you, in the world of watchmaking, is enough to just about stop your own heart. Then, we run into a unique hurdle that requires a highly specialized tool. For the sum of $135 Canadian dollars, you get exactly one tool, the Swiss Presto No. 3. Why? Well, because the sweep seconds pinion in this particular Rolex is friction fit onto a tiny wheel with exactly 5 spokes. Your standard pullers just won't fit. So this expensive, incredibly niche piece of equipment is needed simply to safely pop that single wheel off without destroying the movement. Welcome to luxury watchmaking, right?
Purification, the cleanse. With the movement fully disassembled into dozens of microscopic pieces, we shift from deconstruction to absolute renewal.
Let's walk methodically through this beautifully satisfying four-stage purification process using specialized L&R fluids. First, the parts go into an ammoniated extra-fine wash. This acts as a brightener to really restore the metal's luster. After spinning off the excess, they go through a first rinse followed by a pristine second rinse in mineral spirits. Finally, all those gleaming brass and steel components are placed into a dehydrator at 40 degrees Celsius for 20 minutes. The ultrasonic cavitation and the fluids completely strip away the old grime, revealing factory-fresh perfection.
Rebirth, precision reassembly, and lubrication. Welcome to the rebuilding phase, where every single microscopic gear, pinion, and screw is firmly seated back into its corresponding jewel.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the hidden danger lurking right inside the brass on this barrel bridge. That small bushing at the top that looks exactly like normal brass, it's actually made of beryllium, which is a highly toxic metal. A completely crucial rule of vintage watchmaking is that you must never sand, grind, or polish this specific part. It's just a quiet reminder that these tiny mechanical universes hold very real-world hazards.
You know, watchmaking actually has a bit of a sense of humor, too. When reassembling the automatic works, our watchmaker noticed the tiny C-clip holding the rotor in place looked snapped. Fearing a broken part, a $16 replacement was promptly ordered. Well, when the new one arrived, it looked exactly the same. It turns out, Rolex brilliantly engineered this clip to look broken intentionally, so that a watchmaker's tweezers can easily slip in and press it into place without it flying across the room.
And this right here perfectly illustrates the surgical precision of micro-lubrication. You can't just spray oil into a watch. The barrel arbor and center wheel require HP 1300, which is a pink, medium viscosity oil. But for the incredibly delicate balance cap jewels, we switch over to 9010, a light viscosity oil. Using an ultrafine needle under a microscope, a perfectly round suspended bubble of oil is placed directly over the pivot. Too little, the watch grinds to a halt. Too much, the oil migrates and, well, the watch stops anyway.
Validation, the final calibration. With the heartbeat restored, the dial beautifully shined, and the hands perfectly parallel, it's time to finally close the Oyster case and give it its final exam. But right before the automatic winding bridge is attached and the caseback is sealed up, there is one last microscopic adjustment to make. The beat error needs correcting. By carefully, meticulously nudging the tiny stud carrier, the tick and the talk of the balance wheel are perfectly aligned down to 0.3 milliseconds. This ensures the literal heartbeat of the watch is just perfectly, symmetrically balanced.
So the crucial point is how you'd normally adjust the timekeeping. Typically, to speed up or slow down a Rolex, a watchmaker uses a specialized wrench called a microstella tool. It adjusts these tiny little screws sitting directly on the rim of the balance wheel. But here's the amazing part. Because the purification and reassembly were executed with such pristine factory-level perfection, the rate was already dead on. It literally wasn't even necessary to use the microstella tool today.
And the final verdict is honestly nothing short of triumphant. Remember, we started with a watch struggling at plus 39 seconds a day with a really weak 230-degree amplitude. After the deep chemical cleanse, the hyper-precise application of HP 1300 and 9010 oils, and meticulous calibration, the caliber 1570 is now running at a staggering -1 second a day, with a wildly healthy 259-degree amplitude. Visually and mechanically, it has been completely restored to near-perfect factory specs.
So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. If a complex, high-friction mechanism built in the 1970s can be taken apart, purified, and restored to keep near-perfect time half a century later, how long can these micro-mechanical masterworks truly last if they are properly preserved? It really gives you a profound appreciation for Swiss engineering, and it proves that true craftsmanship, when cared for by the book, might just be immortal. Thanks for joining us on this microscopic journey, and keep exploring.